food, food disorders, emotional freedom, and ultimate health. Did you know there are 7 key factors that you need to understand and master in order to manifest anything in your life? Well, guess what? I'm going to teach it to you. I'm creating a free training that's happening at the end of April. So if you're interested, head on over to momisincontrol.com/join. And the first key factor, I'm going to give you a little heads up right now, is getting super crystal clear on what it is that you want. Yes, I know this can be overwhelming. So guess what? When you join, head on over to momisincontrol.com/join, fill out your name and your email. I'm going to gift you my alignment PDF. This is curriculum taken from my mastery program that I'm gifting you just for registering for this free training. And during the free training that will happen at the end of April, and yes, there will be a replay, I will walk you step by step through the process, what these 7 key factors are, giving you resources and actionable practical steps that you can take today, well, not actually today, but on that day, to take back control of your time and your parenting. The secret here is once you understand how to manifest, you can transfer these skills to any area of your life. So if you're ready to finally stop just listening to the podcast, but start implementing and taking the next step, then head on over to momisincontrol.com/join. It's free. Hey ladies, I'm back. Another day, another podcast. So today I have a very special interview with my dear friend, Neviana Maleyko. And Neviana is the founder of Carrots and Dates. And she has, which is a plant-based cafe here locally to me in Windsor, Ontario. And Neviana and I have become really good friends over the last 5 years or so. And she has a beautiful journey and story about her health and food freedom, and how cultivating and creating a plant-based lifestyle led her to realize that she was using food as a crutch, and that in modern day society, there are other food disorders that, are not socially talked about, and how people use the extremes of the wellness industry to really, control. But what I love about Neviana is she's real, she's raw, and she pulls back the layers of once she was diagnosed. So she came in, she had colitis, and that's how she started eating a plant-based lifestyle. And then 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and realizing that a lot of her healing, even though she had the food part down pat, she had to work on the emotional and spiritual part about it. And I think that's why her and I really connect, because there's no one right way to heal. It's all an individual journey. It's all an inner journey. And that's I don't want to say the complexity of it, but that's what makes this whole process unique, that, people can be here to guide you and to point you in the right direction and to coach you, but they can't do the work for you. And there's no guarantee that if you eat a certain way, you are clean and free for the rest of your life. And that's where the uncertainty comes in. And that's where we need to learn to really trust and to manage our fear. Because you can be eating McDonald's or you can be eating a green salad, but it all matters on your energy and your mind and how you're showing up to that meal. Are you afraid of the food that you're eating? And this is a really in-depth conversation. It's definitely longer than some of my other interviews, and definitely longer than my daily podcast. So I'm really, really excited for you to learn more about Neviana and this journey. And I would love your feedback. So definitely jump into Instagram, hit me up, Mama's in Control, and let me know your feedback on this show, and I will forward those to Neviana, or you can send your feedback to support@heatherchauvin.com. So a little bit about Neviana. She was born in Bulgaria, raised in South Africa, and now lives in Canada. Neviana grew up understanding the importance of fresh food as it was enjoyed from her grandparents' backyard. After moving to Canada, Neviana realized her passion for healthy cooking. She continued on this path to better nutrition by attending countless seminars on healthy eating and lifestyle changes while living in Calgary and Toronto. During this time, she discovered food is a very important aspect of one's lives that can help numerous ailments by simple changes in eating habits. She believes bringing diet together, lifestyle, and mindfulness is a power that can move mountains. You cannot be good at one and leave the rest behind. After 10 years of continued self-teaching and overcoming a few health struggles, Neviana continues to apply her knowledge to her everyday life, which she now shares with her customers, her husband, and her 2 amazing children. Her passion to help people create a full circle in their life by healthy eating, being kind to themselves, and exercising. Currently, she has expanded her knowledge by traveling around the world and attending seminars, cooking classes, and enjoying different cuisines. Established in 2012, Carrots and Dates began with an array of simple vegan, gluten-free desserts and raw energy bars. With a seamless overnight success, Neviana's dream has evolved into a wide range of ready-cooked meals, wholesome salads, and raw desserts that are now available for sale at the cafe and local grocery stores. So I'm really, really excited for you to hear more about her story and how she got to where she is. And as you will see, if you listen to the podcast, you'll see that a lot of the strategies and tips that I talk about, Neviana implemented, or you'll see how she didn't necessarily have a dream to open a cafe, but to solve her problem. And when she started solving her own problems, people said, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And so she started making small batches of food, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. So listen to your story. As you're listening to hers, I want you to think about your own story and what are the breadcrumbs that are showing up for you in your life? What's that bigger vision for you? And even though you might not have a super crystal clear vision today on what that looks like, just think about, the little glimpse of hope and miracles that are showing up for you. So let's dive in. I think you've come into, it takes time to process. Like, what the fuck is your message? Do you find that annoying?
Yeah, I think I have a few messages, but the biggest one is trying to be true to yourself and really understanding where your emotions and feelings are coming from.
You find this weird podcasting with me, don't you?
No, I'm just trying to get in my groove. It will take me like 2 minutes.
That's fine. Okay, this morning, somebody posted this article, scarymommy.com.
No,
okay,
no.
It's just a stupid mom blog, like bitching about motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And she posted it in the group. And she said, before I joined this program, I would have shared articles like this. Now I understand. And the article was titled, Stop Telling Women or Stop Telling Moms They Need More Self-Care.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like bitching about motherhood and how hard it is and exhaustion and everything. Everyone needs everything from you. And then at the bottom it said, when you're trying to help a woman, don't tell her she needs to take care of herself. And I'm like, well, what the fuck do you want people to tell you or do for you? Like, I get people are always like, honey, like you see a train wreck coming. Do you want to give advice? Like, that's hard not to,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but reading the whole article, I was triggered the whole time. I'm like, this is the epidemic of how women feel, not even mothers, how women feel. And now I'm going to get a little social justice. I thought as like a white woman, I didn't have a right to engage in conversation about women and oppression, right? I thought, what have I ever experienced in my life? Like I'm a majority, I'm not a minority. And then I realized like, holy fuck, like women are still have this mindset of oppression and lack because of the generations before us. And we put all of this subconsciously on our plate.
And onto our kids.
Yes. And then this is how the cycle continues. And as you and I have had many conversations about this, like to break those patterns is very uncomfortable.
It's easy to, I think the first step is recognizing the pattern. That's the easy step. Seeing the limiting belief, the patterns, but actually overriding them and going over them with a new pattern, a healthy pattern, that's where the hard work comes in, because a lot of us are not consistent. We'll go in and say, okay, I'm going to do this, and we last 4 days and we jump back into our old patterns. And this is all unconscious.
Yeah. I want to talk about food. But as soon as you just said that, I thought about food, because you and I have been friends for a while, and you've watched me on my food journey where I'm like, I don't understand it. I don't understand food. It was so complicated for me. I grew up on bologna sandwiches and with the mentality that we don't have enough for healthy food, but not even knowing what a sweet potato was or what, like, you know, broccoli. Like, I didn't grow up with any of that shit. And food was always so complicated around me. It was either in one household, because my parents were divorced, one household, it was, we have an abundance of food, but we're just going to throw it all away because we don't know how to cook healthy. And we're eating healthy because we need to lose weight. And then the other side was, we don't have enough, barely any food in the fridge ever, and just scraping to get by. So when I had to learn and discover about food, I couldn't even make a green smoothie. Like, that was very complicated for me. And it was scary because I knew I started to buy into this illusion that, like, food is medicine and food is fuel. But yet I'm like, if this is supposed to save my life, if this is supposed to heal me, I've never actually felt healed in my entire life with food. It's scary to jump into that area.
Food is tricky. I grew up with a family who ate off the land, made their own food. I knew exactly what sweet potatoes were. I knew how to grow them. I knew everything with the season. I knew how to pickle. We knew how to jar. We knew how to survive. But I grew up in the communist area where it was hard to get food. So you had to grow your own. You had to make everything yourself, which I didn't really realize how much knowledge I had until I, at 23, got diagnosed with colitis. And I thought to myself, I think I spent probably 6 months. I was pregnant at that time. I spent 6 months out of my day.
You were diagnosed when you were pregnant?
It was right. But I was diagnosed in October, and then I was pregnant in December.
Wow.
And I couldn't work. I was really ill, and I just spent my days on the internet researching Dr. Google. It was actually pretty frustrating, and I went into a really dark fear because I didn't want to be sick. And I came from a culture in Bulgaria where, and it's still, there's a very holistic mindset there. That if you have an illness, there's a way for you to heal it. But I wasn't aware of how actually to heal, and I went into research mode for months and months. I sat on my computer while I was pregnant looking, and I realized that at that time, I started believing that food was killing me. And I started saying, I got to be vegan. I have to do this. I have to do that in order to heal.
So you came from where the mindset was like, food will heal you.
Not exactly. I came from a mindset that you could heal yourself. I had no idea how. My culture was live off the land. Everything was made by you. You made your own soap. You made your own bread. You made your own meat. You killed your own animals to survive, because in communism, there was no imports.
Yeah, that wasn't like a hipster cool way to live. That was like lack, and well, not lack, but just
suffering way, almost. Right. And if you see me now, I'm like, don't waste this. If there's a piece of bread that's going to waste, I figure out I'll go feed it to the birds. I'm very cautious, and I think it's really helped me now, even with the restaurant and everything that I've done. But I went into like deep research of how can I heal this colitis that is causing me to be so just ill. I was scared. And I went into this mode of, sometimes internally, I kind of knew that I could heal myself in a way. I just didn't know how. And from my research on the internet, I started understanding that everything that I was eating was actually killing me. But my research pretty much showed that, and I think, I'm not sure, I kind of perceived it in this way, that I shouldn't eat meat. Meat causes disease. I shouldn't have dairy. Dairy causes disease. So I eliminated all of those things from my diet.
Do you think... So now, because you and I talk a lot about consciousness and beliefs and all of that, if you had this belief already that like food is killing me, and then you go into Google and you're researching something, do you think you're going to find evidence to support your belief?
Well, what happened was when I first started Googling, I didn't know what was actually causing my disease. I just thought I went colitis, heal colitis naturally, colitis, this, colitis, that. And what came up was don't eat this, don't eat that, don't eat this, don't eat that, eat this, eat that. Don't have bread, don't have cheese, don't have seeds, don't have raw vegetables, and pretty much just live on, I don't know, baked potatoes or something. So I started really digging deep into this research. And at that time, I wasn't very aware of anything. I just kind of believed everything I saw. That was kind of how I had a bit of a child mindset. So everything that came to me, every doctor that told me things, I kind of believed everything and just took it in. And I was researching and I just started saying, okay, I have to eat no animal products whatsoever. I can't have any uncooked vegetables. I can't have this. And I just started fearing everything because I wasn't well. And every time I went to a restaurant, I never ate because I was fearing that it was going to cause me to be sick. And that turned around into this vicious animal of a food disorder, which I had no idea I actually had until about 3.5 years ago. I didn't realize I had this crazy controlling food disorder that was...
Well, there's no diagnosis for these things like anorexia, maybe bulimia, like the traditional forms of food disorders. But you looked healthy on the outside. You lived that healthy lifestyle. You created a local community movement based off of your food disorder.
Based out of my huge fear. Yeah. Based out of this food disorder, based out of fear. A lot of frustration, which frustration turned into a lot of self-hate because things were not going my way. And I also didn't have the capacity or the capability to understand myself better. And I was living in the victim mode and I blamed everything on the outside. It's the food, it's my mom and dad because they fed me yogurt. It's because I was premature. It was because of this. It was because of that.
Were you preemie?
Yeah, I was a preemie.
How preemie?
I was 4 weeks premature.
Oh.
And
I was going to make a funny comment, but I don't have one.
Don't do that. I'm kidding. And it was really a vicious cycle that I created. It was about 10 years that I lived in this. I remember I would stress so much for my son's lunch. If it wasn't vegan, if it wasn't gluten-free or organic, I would sit for hours and try to feed him, and he never ate any of it. And it's really interesting because when I was that strict and that controlling, now let's say your child does have some issue and you have to be strict with their diet, I understand. But my kids were completely healthy. There was nothing wrong with my kids. They were just regular kids just living life. And I became this like obsessed person, making sure that if they don't eat right, they are going to be sick as well. And I remember just completely being frustrated all the time, trying to figure out lunches for my son, making my own breads and making sure everything's organic. And I'm just going to fast forward and then go backwards. Actually, I'm going to go back first. My son, for the first 3 years, about 3-4 years of his life, he was constantly had colds and bronchitis, and he had all kinds of things. And when I actually let go of the control, I started noticing that things were changing with him. Less colds. He was happier. He was more just happy-go-lucky kid. And it was really, what I understood was it was really the environment that I was creating. It wasn't even about the food. It was the environment that I was creating with my control and my fears and my self-hatred and all of that was actually affecting everybody around me.
What do you think? Okay, so here, I've walked a lot of this journey with you, or I've seen you go through this evolution, and some of it is like people will never know the transformation that a person has, right? I remember post chemo, I get sick all the time, like chronic ear infections. And then I started working out, and I would literally work out for like a week, and then I would get sick for a week. And I get that my immune system was like really down, but all of a sudden it just went away. Like, I don't remember the last time I've been sick. My kids haven't gotten sick. And we're not like uber strict people when it comes to food and things like that. But I think it was a lot of internal stuff. And it's like, you do the work. This is the thing. You do the work. And when I say do the work, there is no one size fits all, right? There's no blueprint for this. Everyone's path looks different. But doing the work is like, you have to get like internal. You have to look within yourself and say, what am I telling myself on a daily basis? What am I projecting out into the world? And some of it you will see, and some of it you won't see. And then all of a sudden one day you're like, that doesn't bother me anymore. Like, how come I just ate a piece of bread and I'm not dying? And you're like, hey, now you're serving bread, and like we're breaking bread, and we're back into like what it's supposed to be. Like, there's joy, there's ease, there's freedom there. So let's talk about first, let's talk about what you created out of your frustration. So you get colitis, you clean up your eating, right? You're like, okay, I got to do something about this. Like, you did in that moment, quote unquote, take back control. And then there was a part where you're like, this is just isn't in alignment anymore. So you start making your healthy food. Were you total vegan, plant-based? And then you were making this from home, selling it to people. And then you started your own cafe.
Yeah. So what happened was, I was vegan for quite a few years. And I graduated from photography and graphic design. I have a degree in that. And I was just very lonely at home, being a mom and taking some pictures of other babies. And I remember when Instagram first came out, I made an Instagram account and just started taking pictures of all the food that I was doing and just writing about it. And it was just something that I extremely loved. And again, I was lonely. I didn't know anyone that was doing what I was doing at that time. This is around 2011, 2012. And a couple of people from our city started following me. And one was a personal trainer who asked me to blog on her website for her. And I did. And we got so much interest. So many people were interested. And people said, I don't know what chia seeds are. I'm not sure where to get almond milk. I want you to start making this food for me. So I did. And I started making the food for them. And then a local naturopath asked me to be in one of their wellness events. And I think in January, I was cooking for one family. And by May, I was cooking for 60 families.
Wow. And
out of the frustration and the fear and the just everything from this colitis, this is what was birthed, which was incredible. But that still did not heal any of the things that I was trying to heal. It was actually becoming a lot more worse. Now I know that my coping skills weren't very, very strong at that time when I was cooking for all the people. I started cooking for everybody, and all of a sudden there was so much interest. People asked me to open a small cafe, which I did. And then I just started riding the wave. It was just...
Which is what? How long ago was that? You opened your first cafe?
I was 2000 and...
It was 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I just got diagnosed when you opened.
Yeah. And it was... Honestly, I think my business grew 400% every single year. It was really, really, really busy. We were selling... I was working 90 hours a week. I was extremely tired and happy at the same time, but I was really neglecting 99.9% of myself, neglecting my feelings, neglecting even my eating habits became even worse. Actually, I wasn't eating, because if I didn't have a chance to eat what I needed to eat that was healthy, then I just wouldn't eat at all. And in that frustration time, I also kept getting flare-ups of colitis every single week, 2 weeks, and nothing was really helping me. And I refused to go on really crazy medication. I just kept the meds that I could handle. And I started eliminating more food and more food. At the end, I think I was eating bananas and apples I was afraid of doing anything because I was so sick. I looked like I was 7 months pregnant. I was exhausted. I was sleeping 12 to 13 hours a night, and I still could not function. I was so tired. I was frustrated, and that I brought that into my home. You know, I had 2 small kids. My husband was working full-time hours as well, and I was getting more and more sick every single day, and I wasn't noticing it because I was so busy. I was so busy to even shower. And then the time came when I hit rock bottom. They called me and told me that my mom was in a car accident up in Europe, and I had to move and live there with her because she only had about a 5% survival rate. And at the same time as she was healing from her accident, I lost my grandfather who was helping me take care of her.
And so he was in Europe.
He was in Europe, yeah. And we lost him. He had just too late.
Was that her father?
Her father, yeah. We had just moved my mom into a hospital in Canada, and he passed away about a month after.
Wow.
So that was really tough for us. And about a month after that, I found a lump on my breast.
So we'll talk about the lump in a second, but you went away, I remember this, for 5 weeks.
Almost 6 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, to help your mom by yourself. Your children were left here with your husband. And I remember when you left, so you and I met. This is talk about divine timing or universe or whatever. I followed you on Instagram, but I remember a few people that I knew in the city were getting food from you. And like, you know, however you did that, like you did your like at home pickups or whatever. And even then, like I remember watching you, I remember it's like some type of meatless. It was like a lentil ball. What would that be? Okay. And I'm just like, oh my God, like it was overwhelming to me. Like food was so overwhelming. I'm like, I don't know where to start, what to do. It was even overwhelming for me to consider ordering something and then picking it up. Like right now I'd be like, oh my God, that's so easy, right? Like boom, 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 no big deal. But it's a skill, right? We all need to learn these skills, and you don't, unless you jump in and you're like, wow, that's hard for me, I'm going to master it. You just don't know, right? Because we're taught like, you know, out of college or university, if you didn't learn it there, you don't need to learn anything else. But I believe these life skills are the most important skills that we need to learn as humans, and our children. Definitely we need to up our skills on that, because some of them don't even know how to wipe their own ass. So anyways, I remember connecting with you, and then somehow I was diagnosed. I started talking about my diagnosis, and you were attracted to that for some reason. Maybe because you had colitis. You were not diagnosed. So you were diagnosed with breast cancer, and I was done my treatment when you were diagnosed.
I think I got diagnosed about 2 years after you.
Okay. And I was in a good place mentally because you were like, I'm like, you're not dead. Calm down. But when I was diagnosed, I remember you, I walked into the cafe after I was diagnosed, and you're like, oh, you did not look good. But I didn't know you were diagnosed then. Exactly. Because I still had my hair. I didn't even start treatment yet. And you just opened like the first day, and I'm like, hey, let's just check this out. And then you're like, hey, like, nice to meet you. And I was like, I was just diagnosed with cancer. I was overwhelmed, but I didn't even know where to start or what to do. And then after that, you pooled all your tips for like a day or two and bought me like this huge water dispenser. And I remember it showing up, like, I want to cry, but I remember showing up at my door, coming back from the hospital for something with my stepmother, and it was just there. And I'm like, oh my God, like this makes me want to cry, because it's like this sense of community when you are at your low and people just show up for you. And I always say this on the podcast and to my ladies, why do we need to like have a life-threatening illness in order for us to show up for each other?
Yeah.
And because it's like I completely surrendered, like, oh, she's in pain, I'm going to help her. But why can't we help people when they have like a huge smile on their face? Why
Absolutely.
do we need to wait until it's too late to help each other? And I know, you know, women need to come, we need to work on asking and even being open to receive, because it's like, no, I'm good. But anyways, that was like,
or I can't.
I can't. Yes. That's another conversation. That was like our big in. And I'm like, okay, who is this woman? I remember having my family, this was me asking for help, but saying like, can you go to Neviana's or Carrots and Dates and, like get a green smoothie and bring it to me in the hospital, because while I was in the hospital, the doctors would not allow me to drink green smoothies.
Mm-hmm.
They told me any fruit is going to kill me because of the bacteria that was on the fruit. And you know what? Rightfully so. That could have been. But there was a part of me that was just, it could have been the little rebel in me, which, you know, might kill me one day. But there was also a part of me that was like, I need to learn how to heal my body.
Mm-hmm.
And going to McDonald's, like they were suggesting, was not in alignment with how I wanted to feel.
Totally.
So you helped me smuggle green smoothies into the hospital. And then you started on this journey. But even then, I didn't know anything about you. I didn't know you had colitis. If I did, I didn't even know what colitis was. I didn't know you were struggling with all of this stuff. It was just like, oh, she eats healthy. She has her shit together, which is what society thinks. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, your mother's in the hospital. You go to Europe. You leave your children, because I know that was obviously hard for you, because we, as women, we have this story, like I can't, and I had that too, leaving my kids when I was in the hospital, like nobody else can provide for them the way that I can provide for them. So talk a little bit about that and like the transition that started to happen when you were over there.
So I pretty much woke up and left. I couldn't even say goodbye to my kids. I woke up and left the country. Ended up living in Europe in the hospital for about 6 weeks with my mom. And when I came back, I actually was worse. My control over the food, my control over everything was 100 times worse. It just kind of skyrocketed. I remember coming home and screaming at my son so loud that foam was literally coming out of my mouth. And I would ask myself, I wonder why I'm so frustrated. I just was not aware of anything. I was so emotionally driven. Every time an emotion came up for me, I was puppeted by it. I didn't know how to control myself whatsoever in a healthy way. And I came home, and I was home for about 2 months, and I went right back to work. At the same time, we were building a house. We had to sell our house and move into a temporary home. And that was really frustrating for us as well. And just coming back, I was just a complete mess back. And then about a couple of months later, I had to go back and get my mom, bring her back to Canada to put her in the hospital because she was getting better. I just remember driving sometimes to work and literally cannot breathe. I can't breathe because I was so stressed. I couldn't sleep. I was exhausted. I was yelling so much at my kids. Every relationship around me, I was in a fight with. My friends, my husband, my kids, my workers. I was really frustrated. And I remember I would just continuously complain and sabotage and just talk very negatively about a lot in my life. And I was just not aware. I didn't even have anyone or anything to make me realize that, look at the hole you're in. You have to somehow come out of it, go to therapy, go do something. Mm-hmm. And my health was deteriorating. I was not feeling well at all. And that's when I found the lump on my breast. And it was just, I remember finding it and going, well, that's weird. Like, why would I have a lump? I'm eating healthy. Mm-hmm. I eat healthy. I shouldn't be finding this on my breast. And I did go to the doctor, and they said it was nothing. But fast forward 9 months later, it was actually something. And I remember getting the news. I have a friend in Barrie who we called, who is a breast surgeon. We called and told her what was happening. And she was the one that received my news. She was the one that called me as I was holding my daughter coming home from school. She called me. She said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm outside." I didn't even really tell her what was going on. I was holding Maya's hand crossing the street, and she said, "You have cancer." Nothing. I remember I didn't even go in my house. I went right to my neighbor's house and I said, "Take my kids." And I didn't see them for the next 2 days. I just didn't even know where I was at. But I remember clearly when that news came to me, there was something bigger and greater that I could tackle that would help me. And it was not the food. At that moment, I remember listening, being like, everything you've done so far, there's more. And it's not the food.
Oh my God. I'm going to be a fucking puddle by the end of this conversation. Because I remember, I think we talked like the day before or that morning.
I called you and I said, Heather, I have found a lump in my breast. I'm so scared. And you said, cancer doesn't mean death. And then 2 hours later, I was driving home to get my daughter from school. And literally a half an hour later, she called me. And then I text you like that night, said, Heather, remember when we spoke? This is like, I have cancer.
But don't you find that interesting that you told me you found a lump like weeks after you found the lump? Like you didn't tell me right when you found it. You told me right before she delivered that news to you. Like you almost knew it was coming.
Yeah. I just needed to reach out to someone. And I think when I got you that water filter, deep down inside, I have no idea if I kind of knew, I didn't know. When I bought you that water, it wasn't to help you with clean water. I wanted to help you with that. But I'm such an empath, I actually felt your suffering. And at that moment, I kind of felt that, what does she need? And we pulled our tips together and everything. And it's funny to say that once I came to the realization that everything I've been doing to this day, which was November 7th, 2015, everything I've done to that day was actually not working for me. And I had to, everything I've believed, everything I've done, all the relationships and everything that I've had was not working for me. And I had to change something drastic. I had to change something big. It was almost like a download. And I remember the download when it came to me, it said, if you walk the same walk, your light will eventually dim. But if you change everything about yourself, you will live. And that was what I heard. And I said, well, at that moment, I made a really conscious emotional decision that I want to live and I'm going to change everything about myself. And I'm going to bring a little bit of God and spirituality here because it's really meaningful to me. Before that, I was very atheist. I don't believe in a higher power. I was really angry. If there was a God, I was very angry at it. And so when I was talking right 2 seconds ago about the download, it was I was outside of my house and I said, if there is a God out there, you need to help me because I have no idea what I'm doing and I'm rock bottom right now. And that's when I heard that download. That it wasn't even a voice; it was like a knowing. And I literally took myself to a church 2 days later and walked in there and prayed and cried by myself in the back. Nobody even knew me for months. Well, no, I don't want to say months, a few weeks. And I just started realizing that I can't find my answers on the outside. Everything that I've blamed, everything that I've complained about, and everything that I was frustrated about was not working for me. And my answers are not on the outside. No doctor, nobody was going to heal me except myself. And it wasn't healing my body. I knew I had to heal my soul.
So I just want to intercept here because I know what people are going to think. Or I don't know what people are going to think, but this is how I would misinterpret that. Can we talk about no doctor is going to heal me? Because this is where I think people get confused about asking for help. Because we do need to ask for help and we need to be open to receiving help and guidance.
Absolutely.
But there is a difference between asking for help and have a codependent relationship on a healthcare provider that they're going to fix your problems. I see it as a collaboration.
Absolutely. I have nothing against doctors. The way I meant it was I don't want to go to the doctor and say, here is my power, heal me. And if you don't heal me, then, oh, well, my life sucks.
Exactly.
That's what I meant. I went to the doctor. I went to every single doctor's appointment. I got information. I went to surgery. I did everything. And I took their information as information, not something that I 100% had to do.
Right.
I had to really sit and know what really mattered to me on the inside now, because I always went on the outside, always went, well, if I go here, if I go there, they will heal me. And then it didn't work. The food, all these things. Don't get me wrong. I think food is extremely beneficial, and I used food to heal a hell of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But
you didn't put all your power into it.
No, I didn't. I had all my marbles into food for 10 years with colitis. And when the diagnosis of cancer came, I just really hit rock bottom and realized that I have to look at other forms and other ways. And it's somehow, some way, when you really surrender yourself to a greater power and you change your intentions to really going out there to heal, the right people start coming in your life.
Yeah.
I really decided to live a life of being not a victim. I remember when I lived in the victim mode, then my son was just crazy. He's just picky. He's just spoiled. He just won't go to sleep because he's just messed up.
Which is like modern day parenting.
And I completely shut that off. And I started really living in a life of integrity, life of truth, and life of just being honest with myself. And I didn't really realize that this was going to change a lot around it was going to change my family. I actually lost control. I completely, how do I say this, melted my control. Mm-hmm. I actually had to eat meat in order to heal. I had to really face every fear I've had. I ate meat, I ate dairy. I had to just have a little bit of all these foods in order to notice that it's actually not going to kill me. That I eat it every single day? No, because what I decided to do, I did a lot of healing therapies through food and mindfulness in order to heal. And like I said, I had to heal my soul in order for my body to go into healing. I was carrying a lot of trauma. I didn't realize how much anger and resentment I had as a small child towards my upbringing. I grew up in a home that was abusive. No offense to my parents. They were really frustrated with each other. We moved continents and they had no idea how to take care of themselves. But as a small child, I was just in my little child mind. I didn't really have someone to go to talk about my feelings, or someone to tell me that what I was feeling, all these negative emotions I was feeling, were okay, that everything is okay, and that I am okay. As a small girl, I started really deeply starting to believe that I was not a good person, that I caused misery for people, and I might as well just be dead, really. I walked around with that mentality deep down in my subconscious. I wasn't aware of any of this. And I remember when I started to, I want to say, heal my soul, I had no idea what emotion meant. I didn't. I was like, what is an emotion? Something I feel? But what am I feeling? What's coming up for me? Why am I frustrated? And usually when I started really realizing, having all these awakening moments for myself, I started realizing that I had a food disorder as well. I had to control everything in my life because I felt like I was out of control. Because if I'm a bad person who does bad things, then I might as well control everything around me so that in return, I'm a good person.
Yeah. So if you control that, then you feel like, yeah, I always say, look at the reason why we control something outside of us is because there's something inside of us that feels out of control. So culturally, doesn't matter what modality or what you're doing. Usually you look at the symptom, which is, my child's behavior is driving me nuts. That's what a lot of people come to me for. And I'm like, okay, is it the child's having their own human experience? So we can't say that their shit is always a reflection of us. Like, they are a person too, and they might be, but they're highly affected by our energy. And just as if they have a teacher that they're not jiving with, they have a bad year at school, right? I've experienced that, but yes, so controlling something on the outside is the symptom. So to get to the deeper rooted problem, you have to look within.
It was extremely uncomfortable. I took myself to therapy and coaching. I did coaching and therapy for about 1.5 years, about 3 to 4 times a week, because I needed that. I needed that feedback all the time to start really understanding my patterns, the way I thought, and really to understand myself. That was extremely intensive for me. But it really opened up the door to self-awareness, to self-control, and to self-regulate, to understand my emotional language that I had, and why I did the things I did. Why the stories that I told myself, the limiting beliefs that I carried within myself. And I traveled back home to understand how my grandma was raised, how my mom was raised, to actually see that all of these people were my teachers. And then when I graduate, like 18 years old and gone into the world, I am reacting from a place of how I got taught. Or I'm also reacting from a place where all my trauma is set. And it was really interesting and this is not actually a cancer story or a colitis story. It's a story of really self-discovery to really understand, because my journey to healing was really getting to know who I am and why I did the things I did. And when I came home and I decided to, do a more holistic healing, I literally let go of everything. If my son wanted to wake up in the morning and have noodles, obviously I know that I have a choice. I could give him a nice organic noodle, which I did. Before, it would be like out of the question. He has to have bananas with hemp seeds, which he never ate anyway. I just let go. I'm like, yeah, you want pizza? Okay, I'll go get your organic cheese or a nice crust. And yeah, we'll have pizza. You want burgers? Okay, yeah, you can have a burger. You want to go to a birthday party, have 10 hot dogs? Sure, have the 10 hot dogs. I just let go. I let go of so much because now I had to really take care of myself.
Can you talk about, sorry for cutting you off, but what letting go actually means? Because I see a lot of people, it's like in that moment, you have to sit with your discomfort.
Yes.
Right? If you, example, someone texts you and you always rush to that person's rescue and you decide, I'm just going to not respond right now. What does it mean to let go of something? Because people say, just let it go. But what are you actually doing in that moment?
In that moment, letting go for me is I have to sit with myself in that moment and say, am I really okay with this? Am I just saying it to run away and just deal with your stuff, little kid? Or am I actually going to be okay after he eats that? And I use that for my own eating too. Am I actually going to be okay eating this cake? Like at this moment, I might be emotional and needing to eat it, but how would I feel after? And I really had to sit with this. How am I going to feel if my son eats that burger, or if my son goes outside and plays and rolls in the mud? Or I had to let go of a lot of control. And letting go is that I actually allowed myself to do it, and then afterwards sit with myself of how I felt. So if my son ate the burger and he went outside and played in the mud and rolled in the mud and all this dirt came in the house, the next day everything was still fine.
Yeah, you had to sit with the fear, your biggest fear, which is, oh my gosh, he's going to get sick and this is going to happen and then it's going to project onto me. And who am I if I have this plant-based vegan lifestyle and I'm the poster child for healthy eating and my child is eating hamburgers and hot dogs and dirt or whatever the heck.
Yeah. And actually the opposite happened. Once I started letting go and actually facing those fears and allowing myself to push through those walls, the opposite effect happened is that my son stopped having colds. He used to pee his bed every single night. He stopped peeing his bed. He was very behind his speech. He jumped a grade. And we didn't do anything except let go of the control, let go of the fear, face the fear, and really embody life. Start living instead of fearing everything around me. And it was transformational. Not that it only changed me, it changed my relationship with my husband. It changed my relationship with my daughter. And it's very meaningful when I have these conversations because it's so true. I never in my life imagined that if I was able to heal my own fears, that it was actually going to heal everybody around me.
Yeah.
And when I went to coaching, I had to be very honest.
You are a healer.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and sorry for cutting you off again, but
you're in trouble.
I know. I don't think women give themselves enough credit on how powerful we actually are, because we have a history of do not use your voice. You are not powerful. You cannot, stay small, stay small, stay small. And now we're seeing with the rise, like when we collaborate together and we are not judging each other and we're fully embodying who we are, one, it feels easy.
It's so easy.
It's so fucking easy. And I tell people this all the time. They're like, it's hard, Heather. I don't have time. I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. Like you do have time, but you are putting this difficult illusion around it to make it hard for you, because that's what we've been taught, that if you're not suffering, it's not working. And we are healers. Like I know there's people like, I'm an empath, I'm a healer, I'm a shaman, I'm this. Okay, what about the everyday woman that is like, what the fuck is a shaman? What the fuck is a healer? Am I an empath? Women are powerful. And when we realize that we matter and we start giving ourselves that time and energy.
When I started giving myself time and energy, I started realizing actually how magnificent I am.
Yeah.
When I had that moment to realize that we're all the same. We all have this power within us, and it's easy to use this power because this power is effortless and easy. It's hard to control. It's hard to fear. It's hard to gossip. It takes so much energy out of us to actually do all these toxic behaviors. But it is easy to be compassionate. It is easy to be faithful. It's easy to have hope. It's easy to be truthful. We're wired for that. Our bodies are wired to be honest, to be compassionate, to be loving, to help each other, to be in community, to be truthful with ourselves. But we're not wired to be fearful. We're not wired to gossip, to just hate, especially hate on ourselves.
Yeah. How much energy does it take you to be around somebody who's not living their truth?
It's very hard for me to be around that. And I've realized that also I can't change them.
Yeah.
I can only love them for where they are at this moment. Does it mean that I'm going to be your best friend and hang out with you? No, because I'm very conservative.
But there's no judgment.
There's no judgment.
It's just like, there's no judgment. It's like, oh, that's where you're at. There's no judgment. It's just, you're on your healing journey. We may meet again. We may not.
When I was in my space where I was frustrated and fearful and angry, being around those people I fed off them. It was great. It fed my energy because, like attracts like. And when I heard that kind of awakening voice in my head saying, you have to change everything about yourself in order to live, change wasn't hard. The change was not hard. Staying consistent in the easy change was hard for me.
Ooh, that's a good one. So change was not hard. Staying consistent in the easy change was hard.
Because I noticed, like, let's say I'm reading a book. I'll start reading halfway through, toss the book. Start some new project, go to the gym, halfway through, toss it. I was not consistent with anything. And I knew this for the first time in my life that I'm going to have a lot of life is going to come at me with shit. Like I was running 2 businesses. I had 2 kids and I needed to heal from the inside. I still had shit to do, but I could now react from an easy space to all of that, to all of it, especially to myself. I started waking up at 4 a.m. and giving myself time. I would caress my body, just showing it so much love. And honestly, the body's really interesting thing is when I was doing that, I could actually feel like a little baby girl getting love from her mom. That's how much nurturing I was needing because I neglected myself for years. I neglected every single inner gut feeling, inner voice. I neglected all of that and always surrendered to the fear. It was louder. It was louder and it pushed me to do other different things. And I think our gut feelings, our intuition is very soft and whispering. And we have to really understand which one is which. Fear will nudge you and scream at you, and your intuition kind of just comes once.
It's almost like I just visualize two children. Like you have a classroom full of kids, and you always have that kid that's like needs to be, the showstopper. And you raise your hand. You're always picking that kid because if you don't, that child is going to make themselves known, like the attention seeker. That's kind of like fear. And then you have that like soft, quiet child in the background who's like, it just, raises their hand and says the correct answer, but doesn't say it loud enough so that
and they don't care if anybody.
They don't care if anyone sees them. And that's what intuition is.
Yes.
And fear manifests in funny ways. And once you catch on to its like jokes and illusions, it will manipulate itself in other ways, where I've actually gotten to a point where I know what is fear and what's, intuition.
It's very powerful.
But then I'm like, how come I actually don't have an opinion on this topic? And I know it's supposed to scare me, but it's not. And it's almost, it can numb you. And then I'm like, what does the intuition say? And I have to like verbally work through it with someone. I have to write it out. And then, a week goes by and I'm like, how come I actually haven't given up on this? Like there was an event that I wanted to go to. And I'm like, if I didn't want to go, it wouldn't be on my mind anymore. But I'm not getting a hell yes and I'm not getting a hell no. So it's funny to watch how fear manipulates itself. And I'm like, I don't know, but what's the worst case scenario that can happen? I go to this event and I was like, that wasn't good. But it's so, we need to really know ourselves. And too often when you're talking about control and from the outside, so when I'm working with people, I always say to them, I do not want you to be codependent on me. I see a lot of people who create codependent relationships with their therapists or coaches. And I'm like, I want you to feel in control of your life. There are 6 billion plus people in the world. What, 7 billion now? I don't fucking know. I'm not whatever. There's a lot of people in this world. I will never go out of business. If I can empower one woman to instinctually trust her gut in parenting, when the doctor says your child was just diagnosed with this, or the child is now a teen and this happens, I want them to feel fucking empowered and know from their intuition what decision to make.
It's interesting. I have a story about my son. My son had some issues with his teeth, and we went to a dentist, and he said, we got to get this tooth out. But because he's a kid, we have to put him out. He has to go in the hospital. We can't just he's not like you. And then we went to the surgeon. He invited us in and he said, yep, it's going to cost you this many $1,000 and he's going to have to go under. We're going to have to put this. It's going to, as he was talking, my gut feeling was like, I don't know about this. Like there has to be a different answer. Something was, and I asked him, I said, is there any other way that we could do this? He goes, no. And now I'm saying this was the old me. I would have been like, the doctor said, no, this is what we have to do. This is how much we have to pay. My son's going in. My gut for that little moment in that day said, try something else. But then I didn't feel that gut feeling anymore because I learned its voice, its feeling. I never let that go. I said to my husband, I have a feeling that we need to do something else. When I was talking to the surgeon, something was bugging me. I think we need to get a second opinion. And I said, I'm just going to call this dentist. And I had a holistic dentist in Stratford that I use. And he said, yes, the tooth has to be pulled. I said, okay. And that feeling was still there. So I said, I'm going to go with a second opinion. I went to another dentist, showed him the pictures. And he said, it's going to cost you $60. I can pull this tooth out in 5 minutes. We'll put some laughing gas on him. We'll be gone. So I thought, oh my goodness, if I just no offense, that dentist, it's just what he knows and this is what he does. If I decided just to go with that, we would have had to go the whole route. Who knows what kind of trauma my son would have had in that hospital, knowing that he's a little bit afraid of doctors. Or he could have just hit the laughing gas and was out of there. So that gut feeling as a mom, is very powerful.
Yeah.
And I've used it many, many times before. And by learning its voice, I use it with myself now. But it's been a huge struggle for me for the past 3.5 years to discern between both of them, which one is which. And I'm like every day it gets better and better and better.
And I think that's a skill that only like that we can strengthen within ourselves. And it kind of goes full circle back to food, this topic of intuitive eating, because intuition is you are connected to yourself, which is nature. It's natural, right? This is how we were created and cultivated. This is the reason why you don't run in the middle of a street, because there will be cars. This is why, we don't go out at night. It's not because danger is out there. It's just how we're created as creatures. This is why, I like warm weather better than cold weather, but it's like we have all these natural capabilities. And for some reason, culture has disconnected us from that. Just like growing our own food, right? And now when I see these, I don't know why I have a thing against this, but they live off of this busyness of women marketing. And so now you have all these bring your, what do you call it? Like food delivery and stuff like that. Like we're so disconnected, and we have to get back to our roots. We have to get back to nature. We have to be in sunlight. Like you're not going to die if you're in the sun. Like, oh, if I'm in the sun, I'm going to get cancer. Like, no. I was bitching to someone the other day about, I was in the bookstore, and you go in this like wellness section and you see all these fruits and vegetables on the front cover of books, and they're labeled as anti-cancer. And I'm like, why does this have to be anti-disease? Because you're attracting this to someone who is afraid of dying. Yes. And I was never attracted to those books, even having that disease. I was always attracted to the ones that were like, give you hope and possibility, right? I never felt like I was dying. The only place I felt like I was dying was when I was in the hospital. But any other healthcare practitioners that I had, I felt like a sense of hope and possibility. And it's all mindset and belief system. And if you don't have hope and possibility, like you have nothing. So I don't know where I was going with this conversation, but
intuitive eating. I wanted to go back to the intuitive eating. As soon as I decided to change everything about myself, I started asking myself, and this is what I go, why? Why do I want to eat this? Why? Why do I want this candy right now? Why? Oh, it'll make me feel better. Why? Oh, I was frustrated. Why? And then I get to the root. By the end, I don't really need it. And I use that a lot for a lot of things that I do in my life. Why do I want to post this on Facebook? Well, I want everybody to know that I'm going to Dominican. Why? Well, will make me feel like I'm not a loser and I just travel a lot and have a lot of money. Why? Well, I want people to think that. Why? And then once I get to the root of it, I'm like, this is so not who I am. Why do I need to do this? And I don't post it.
I have the opposite problem. I hate social media. I'm like, why do people want to see this? This is so stupid. It's very weird.
I don't like social media either.
Yeah.
But the world is going towards that way of communication. And another thing is intuitive eating. I really truly believe that if you're going to buy a cookie from the grocery store, or you're going to have grandma make a cookie with the same recipe, the grandma's cookie is so much more healing than actually the grocery store one, because the grocery store one is made with machines, ultraviolet light. There's people at work that don't want to be there. This is all energy. We're all energy. And when grandma makes the cookie, she puts love. She's imagining the kids eating it. She's loving the fact that probably got her eggs from the backyard. And you eating that same recipe but made differently is a lot better for your digestion and everything that you do. Now, going back to intuitive eating, if you're putting this banana in your body because you're fearing of getting cancer, its energy is going to be completely different. But if you're actually eating this banana with the real intention of nurturing your cells in your body, and because you're hungry and you love bananas, its digestion, everything is going to change. So when I went into my healing mode of changing everything about myself, I went into that space of the intentional, intuitive space of eating, intentional, intuitive space of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it was easy because now I was just tapping into who I truly am.
So can I ask you a question? Let's just take the banana, for example, and probably most people have seen those science projects where you have like 2 plants or 2 apples and you're like loving on one, hating on another. And the one you love on like stays healthy. And then one you hate on like shrivels and whatever. So there is a lot of science behind energy and thoughts, right? I live it. I feel it. What do you do in the moment when you have your banana and you're just starting on this journey and you're coming from a place of fear? You're aware that you're coming from a place of fear. Heck, your whole life has been fear-based and you don't know anything but, right? When you are like, I've always been overwhelmed. I'm chronically been fatigued. I actually don't know what it feels like to experience joy or ease. Do you just say, like, what do you do in that moment? Like, I know I'm eating this banana out of fear. Like, how do you start to change those thoughts and feelings and emotions?
You get help.
Okay. So let's just say you get help. What was the tool or strategy or thing and I think this goes back to what you said about being consistent with the process, because I see this in people all the time. Like, okay, I did that once. Like, I'm good. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, you need to rinse and repeat the cycle, be consistent until you can legit wake up and feel like, wow, I have energy today. So what was it? Or did you just have to keep telling yourself like, I'm healthy, I'm healthy?
No. I actually didn't realize that I had a food disorder well into like a year or 2 after I got diagnosed. That was like the last thing. And it was a huge one. So what I would suggest to someone, if they know they have a food eating disorder or a big disorder, is to go and tackle something smaller. So for me, something smaller was like deleting Facebook and realizing how intuitive and intentional I was with Facebook. So I deleted Facebook and Instagram for a year. In the beginning,
what if you need it for business?
Well, this is what I used. Maybe someone can stop shopping.
Okay.
Let's say they are constantly needing to go and buy things so they can feel good. For me, I deleted Facebook, and the first few weeks of it, I was a complete mess. Like I was coming off a crack because I realized that every move I made was about posting a picture, about showing people who I am, finding worth, all these things. And I realized that I was actually highly addictive to gossip, but I actually didn't have to gossip to someone. I could just scroll through Facebook to get gossip, and then endorphins or whatever comes out, it will satisfy me, which means sometimes 100 times a day if I was in a really bad space. So that really kicked off. It was small. I thought it was something small, but it became something very big that I didn't realize how addicted I was to it. So let's say you notice that you're constantly shopping when you're feeling down, or you're doing something destructive. Working, yes.
Workaholics.
And avoiding things, then you can tell yourself with something small, give yourself a place where you can stop that, you know? And another thing that I also did was, and I do that in my coaching, is I give a person a metaphor of how they are currently. And let's say for myself, when I went through my coaching, the metaphor for me was a stilt walker in the sand. That when I noticed that I was failing, I was sinking in the sand, and a stilt walker can't walk in sand. So once I sunk, my whole life just went downhill. Fear came, doubt came, I needed to gossip, I needed to do all these things. So I created a current way of being as a metaphor for myself, and then I created a metaphor for who I am in the future, who I want to be. And as I started working on myself and doing all these kind of things, I was jumping in and out of the future and my present moment. I wanted to be this other person.
Who was the future you?
The future was an enthusiastic photojournalist, someone who loved what they did. They took the photos they loved and didn't care what people thought of them. Who cares? Like, this is my work. This is my art. This is who I am. And I started really living in that space, you forget of who you are currently. But who you are currently also has power. Like I said, who I was before in the fear and the doubt created carrots and dates. But how those behaviors puppeted me to react to life was not working for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I really started to shift. And like I said, again, if I could give someone to tattoo something on their forehead, I would tattoo consistency. Because you have to be consistent in order to get somewhere. You can't, if you're running for a marathon and you only work out 3 days and show up at the marathon a month later, you're not going to get anywhere.
That's what I did. That's seriously. That's what I fucking did.
But if you consistently trained, you would probably make it a place where you're like, whoa, I did this.
Do you want to know why I did that?
Why?
Because I lived in a space of, I can check it off my bucket list, but if I actually try, what if I fail? Like, I can already label myself as a failure because I'm not trying. So it's like, I'm taking away that like big hype of, what if you're actually good at something? What if you can actually do this, Heather? But then I'm like, oh, just check off. Yeah, ran a marathon. But what would actually happen? It shows what you're truly capable of when you're consistent. And you and I have had this conversation about food too, where I'm like, I'm feeling good, and then I sabotage it with something.
Absolutely.
But I'm only feeling good because I'm being very restrictive with something. But what if I sprinkle in what I enjoy?
Absolutely.
I don't have to take away all the sweets and chips and everything, because now I'm in a space where I crave them, but why not? Like, why can't I just have it and be like, you know what, I'm going to eat this whole fucking bag of chips, and there's no guilt around it. Mm-hmm. Not because I'm like, oh, I'm a failure. No, it's because I'm being more consistent. So therefore, and then it's kind of weeding its way out. Yes. It's like, we have this all or nothing mentality. Mm-hmm. I'm either going to become a super athlete today, or I'm going to be sitting on the couch. It's like, what if you just try to become 1 degree better every day?
Mm-hmm. Great job, Heather.
When are you running your triathlon?
I'm not doing it this year.
What do you feel? Oh, yeah. When are you like climbing your mountain or backpacking? Like, what are you craving? What are you up to now?
So now what I'm craving is, I just want to go back quickly.
Okay.
I do want to tell people that as soon as I made that decision, I'm speaking wholeheartedly, truthfully, honestly right now, when I made that decision in November of changing everything about myself and really surrendering to a higher power for guidance, and I let that guide me from it. Sometimes it was weird. Like, I've had to lay on the grass with no shirt on because I needed to ground.
So
like so many weird things. This intuition.
Oh, there's Neviana naked in her backyard again.
Yeah, I'm not joking. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do that. And it's just, I have millions of stories.
But trusting
and letting go of the control, and letting go that I need to be in charge. And just saying, you know what? To me, it's God. To some people, it might be universe. I say, God, you're in charge and I'm following. You pave the road. I'm walking over there with you. I'm not going to try and tell you what to do. And it was so easy to let go. It was hard. What was hard? It was easy to let go, but what was hard was controlling the fear and all of that to try and puppet me. Because I knew it was like, okay, go shopping, go do this, fail, do that. No, I'm not doing it. I'm sitting still here. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to sit still, and I'm not going to move. And I'm going to try to tap into my intuition. I'm not going to listen to all this bullshit that tells me that how bad my story was. See, Neviana, you're a bad person. See, you're messed up. See, you should just die. Nobody likes you. You're just this, like, you should be punished. Those are the things I constantly told myself. And once I stopped at just 1 or 2%, I was able to let go of the illnesses. I also looked at myself, like, I found worth in being ill. You know, it was like my identity.
You get attention.
And once I let go of that, and I remember the last time I had a flare-up of colitis that I was sick was October 30th, 2015. I haven't had a symptom ever since. And that is wholeheartedly honest truth here. And I have just, everything has transformed. I lost 22 pounds. I still wear the same pants, but somehow energetically weight had to come off of me, which was emotional baggage, trauma, and all this pain that I was holding on to. And it's just been, I started like swinging on swings, I had to relive my childhood with my kids because that's what my intuition wanted. This is what in my heart, what I was here for. So now I just wake up. I have voices in my head where sometimes every morning I wake up, doubt comes in. What if you're not this? What if I go, hi, thank you, I see you. I'm not moving on that way. I'm not going to come your way. And some days I fall for it. It takes me a week to come out.
Yeah.
But at least I'm not in it all the time. Before I was in it 90-10. Now I'm 80-20. 80 more in my intuition and my guidance, and 20 into fear and doubt. I'm human. I'm not perfect. And it's been transformational.
You know what I find, that's why I love this conversation, is processing fear. So
it's going to be there.
Yeah.
I see fear every day, 10 times a day.
Yeah. Like, and I know what I need to do to like overcome it. Sometimes, like, I know for me, a big story was like, I suck, right? Like, I think anyone who
we're very similar
has ever wanted to, like, cause I, as a teenager, wanted to end my life. I think anyone who ever has those thoughts, it's a story, right? It's a story, but it's so powerful in your mind. And then you're not going to want to like do anything to live, right? To integrate that. But for some reason, I hung on to that. I think parenthood like just saved my life because I'm like, frick, I can't do this now. And so as I start to integrate, like live, that was the thing for me for cancer. It was like, oh, okay, you really want to die? You really don't think you have a purpose here on this earth? Well, great. I'm going to call your bluff. I'm going to put fear, like I'm going to put your biggest fear right in front of your face. Oh, but you told me you wanted to die. You told me you had no worth, Heather. Oh, now you're scared. Why are you scared? You said you want to die. You want to kill yourself. What's wrong? I'm going to kill you. I'm going to end your life for you. Just give in to the disease. And I was like, fuck, I was actually just terrified of not knowing how to live. That was my biggest fear. I'm like, I've never felt alive in my entire life. If I did as a toddler, I don't consciously remember that. So I need to figure out how to fucking feel alive again.
It was the same for me.
Yeah.
I really had to figure out how to be alive. And the intuition always told me, go swing on the swings, go play Barbies with your daughter. Before I would say, that's stupid. I'm not going on the swings. I'm just going to sit here on my phone and research while they play.
Yeah.
I went to Hawaii.
Because I have a long to-do list.
Yes. I did things on my own. I went to Hawaii by myself. I met a friend there. I jumped off
How dare you?
50-foot cliff, I was terrified of heights. And I really, it was terrifying.
Didn't you tell me there was like sharks in the water?
Yeah, there could be sharks in the water. Yeah. Mean sharks. And I just did it. I went in the jungle and hiked. We had no idea where we were, and we snorkeled in the ocean that who knows what's in it. I was terrified doing it. But afterwards I was like, shit, this wasn't bad. I was so scared. Like all these stories I would tell myself.
More alive after?
Yes.
You're like, that's exactly what I needed. And it comes back to what you said earlier about facing your fears, like letting go. Okay, I'm not going to respond to that text message. Okay, I'm going to put my phone away. Okay, I'm going to eat a steak. Okay, I'm not going to, I don't know, I'm going to be a hermit. I'm going to say no to everything I've been invited to. If someone's telling me to do this, I'm going to do the opposite because my gut says do the opposite.
Absolutely.
I'm going to get a second opinion.
And again, talking to your gut and your intuition is I had a rib out of place because I would lifted my daughter and I couldn't breathe. And I thought, okay, I'm dying. This is something happened. I'm dead. And my intuition said, you have to call a chiropractor, not a doctor. And I was like, I have to go to the doctor. Like, I probably have to get a scan or something. I can't breathe. My intuition said, no, call a chiropractor. I went to a chiropractor. She said, your rib is out of place. So she jumped on me and I still couldn't breathe. I came home and I said, what do I do? And my intuition said, lay on your back on the hot cement for 2 hours. So I did. And afterwards, the pain was still there. And I said, what do I do now? I said, take your shirt off and ground, like no bra, boobs down on the grass in your backyard and lay there. So I did. It was so itchy and uncomfortable. Who would do that? Like if that was the old me, I'd be like, this is crazy. Give me a pill.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have fixed it. I literally needed grounding. I need to be one with nature, with my mother. Like that is who I am. I'm part of nature. And I literally passed out. I woke up and a day later the pain was gone.
I love it.
As I was sitting on the grass there, the pain was disappearing. But I was just sitting there going, what am I doing? What's going on? Okay, I'm just going to do it because this has gotten me where I am today. I'm just going to listen to this crazy voice because it told me all these things so far.
Yeah.
You know, and it's told me so many, like even with blood work and testing that I've had to have done, it always told me you are okay. You don't even have to go do it, but just go do it so that you can have some type of proof more. And the more I do this, now I know. Now I just have to go in and I have to really always be aware of how much fear I'm believing, how much doubt and how many things I'm believing, especially in times of when it's delicate, when life gives you, you know, things that you have to deal with. In those moments, fear creeps in and I start believing it. I have to be pretty much self-aware all the time. And the way I do it is every 2-3 hours, go be by myself, just connect back to who I am. Journal, run, dance. And a lot of the times I have to hang upside down.
It's like the energy gets to the feet. You need to get it back.
Yeah, I have to like out of headstands, hang upside down, do some type of movement to really get back to who I am. And the old me would have been like, this is crazy. I should be in a psych ward. But the new me was like, yeah, let me do this so I can get out of this.
Yeah. And I love this conversation because it's what I'm hearing you say is learning to trust yourself, learning to trust something bigger than you, whatever that is for anyone, taking the feedback that you receive from everyone, a physician, a friend, a colleague, all these different healthcare practitioners, and just saying, how does this land with me?
Yes.
And sometimes when you don't know if it's fear or intuition, just making a decision anyways. Because I find people get stuck in indecision. They're living in a state of fear. I remember one of my clients told me this, and I've heard this before, but this chronic disease of busyness, this chronic state of busyness, we have like 10 minutes left. This chronic state of busyness is driven from fear, right? And I look at these people who on the outside look very successful and they're like, I just got to show up every day and hustle and grind. It's like, but are you truly happy? Or are you running away from something? Because money is energy and you can make more money. I'm like, making money is easy. Like you can make more money. Like that's the easy part. The difficult part is doing the inner work to look at that. But if you can go from literally living off of nothing and then all of a sudden you're making millions of dollars and you're still not happy, like,
absolutely.
Hello, people. As you can see, the traditional models of success are not working. So then I'm talking to people who say, I have everything. What's wrong with me? And I'm like, why do you think there's something wrong with you? Because you got it. That's a symptom. We have to look within.
I really don't think that something's wrong with anybody. I just feel that we need to just give ourselves time to stop and reflect.
God, yeah.
That's it. Stop, reflect, get some help.
Terrifying to people.
Absolutely. It is terrifying because when I was starting to really face some of my truths and I perceived truth as good, 80% of my truth was horrible. Horrible for me to notice how much trauma I carried. Horrible to see how much resentment I carried towards my mother and my father. It's like that saying where when someone hurts you, you take the poison, expect them to die. That's what I was doing in my own self. Like all my cells, inside my cells, the way I saw it was there 30% resentment, 20% anger, 10% trauma, all this. And there was like 1% for love.
Yeah.
I had to let go of all these things and heal them and face them and relive them most parts to actually let them go because I had to face the truth, then relive it. In order to relive it, I had to see it. And to see how it actually hurt me and what it did to me. And then to forgive myself in that moment to say, I'm letting this go and cry and dry heave and throw up, whatever I needed to do. But then wake up the next morning and say, I'm done with it. Self-forgiveness was one huge part of all of this. Forgiving myself for being controlling and not knowing how to eat was huge as well. And just moving through that, the way I saw myself was a hurt little child, and how would I react to that little girl all the time. And I want to say one more thing before we end this. Change is hard. The way I see change is that right now,
is it hard or is it uncomfortable?
It's both. I'll explain it to you. You're moving too fast, Heather.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. The way I see change is, so change is in front of you. It's a pretty long process and road, which probably doesn't. It's always until the day we die when we're 95, and you have a chance to how to get there. You can go in your comfortable space and how you've always done it. Probably won't be as fun because you're gonna it's like going into, so the way I see it is one car and a big semi truck. You can get in your car and on automatic and somehow get there with no experiences in autopilot, or you can jump in that truck with 16 gears and try to get there. It's going to be hard. You have no idea how to drive a truck. You have no idea what to do. All these gears, no one's shown you any of this. But if you have the courage to get up and go inside there and fail and fall and get up and drive yourself to that space, that truck's going to be able to carry a lot of goodness for you. Or you can go in auto mode and not know anything's going on. This is where I feel like us as humans, we're living life in autopilot and actually not living.
Yeah.
Real life is feeling everything, and accepting it all is great. Even there is this book that I'm reading called The Power of Negative Emotion. How your negative emotions are so powerful to actually show you, like an anxiety, to show you that you're scared of something. Tackle it. You know, for the longest time, and I still do now, I have an anxiety of doctors, but I still tackle it. I still go. I still do the things that I feel is right that I need to do. You know, if something's wrong with me, I go. It's one of my biggest fears now, but I still tackle it. And I see myself as getting into that truck and trying to, you know, get myself through life with that. But as you do it more and more and more and become self-aware, it's easy.
And there's no right or wrong. It's like, you have to, no one else, you can't get someone else to go in that truck and drive it for you. You have to get in the driver's seat and just figure that shit out. And you're going to stall it out, and you got to figure out how to yes, you can have people guide you, but people might be like, it's that gear shifter, like put it up and da-da-da-da. And you're like, what? I don't understand. It's like, we can collaborate with people, but we have to be the driver or nothing will manifest.
And also when you are the driver, seeking help is huge, because I think you need a tribe of people. For me, I had to get a team of people to help me. I had healers, I had coaches, I had therapists, I had acupuncturists, naturopaths, all kinds of people around me who were on my team that I reached out for help.
And there will be seasons.
Absolutely.
Like at the beginning when you're in a crisis state, you have a lot of people around you. And then after, you're like, I'm good. And then you'll go through periods where you have nobody. And then you're like, ooh, now I'm coming up to another breaking point or an up level. I need to invest in this type of support. And people are so used to investing in shoes and cars and vacations. And what I mean by vacations is like to run away from your life, not coming back and going, oh, like this is an experience rather than a vacation. So we need, you know, when people are like, oh, but personal development is expensive. It's like, to be honest, it has to be expensive to get your fucking attention. And if you're not willing to be all in, you're not going to see change. So thank you. We're going to wrap it up. What are you up to now?
Now I am up to challenging my mind, doing things that are challenging. Next is I want to walk somewhere that is very challenging 4 or 5 days. And I'll also, after that, I want to do a solo walk for about 20 days. I've been taking myself solo into the forest and being alone in like a cabin. Shit's scary, but I'm facing those kind of fears. It really brings me to the next level. I'm always waking up and going like, what is going to challenge me today? I don't like to sit too long in my comfort. I like to get discomfort.
Yeah.
I like to go in there and I challenge myself with, emotions and feelings. I put myself in a lot of, especially being an owner of a business. Before, I would never put myself in an uncomfortable position where I'd have to talk to someone with compassion and love. Let's say an employee of mine is doing something they're not supposed to be doing, instead of being rude and, punishing.
Yeah.
It's not easy to be compassionate and loving and put yourself in their shoes and try to figure out why they're doing the things they're doing. So I'm doing a lot of that. And now calling them, talking to them, being in an uncomfortable position, because I grow.
What are you doing professionally? So you're shifting into coaching.
I'm shifting into coaching. I'm just recently almost finished with Integral Coaching Canada, which has been extremely powerful.
I love them. Yeah.
They're an incredible company. I've seen huge results even with the people I'm coaching right now. I had to do my own coaching program for myself that challenged me to my core. And it's a really cool way to coach, because the way we coach is your current way and your future way. So you have a place where you're going, but it's really hard to do it on your own. Us as coaches, we're there for feedback and to keep our student in line. Just like if someone's training for the Olympics, the coach is there to get them going, because at some point that athlete doesn't really know how great they are and how good they've done, but you get feedback from that coach. And
they're the athlete. Like, you have to show up to the game.
And the great thing about the coaching that I'm doing right now is it's not long term. It's about between 4 and 6 months of coaching, and we teach you how to not be codependent and to because when I stopped my coaching a few years ago, I learned the most after I ended my program.
Yeah.
Is when I fell and had to use my own strength to get up, and all the tools that I developed, I had to learn how to use them.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people, I'm like, now's when you fly. Push you out of the nest, go figure your shit out. You're not alone, but this is when you really got to show up.
I'm developing my website. It's coming out soon, nevianamaleyko.com. And I'm stepping in.
Can you spell that?
Neviana Maleyko, Maleyko.com, all in one word.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's scary for me to, change careers, but it's what that gut feeling is telling me to do.
And it's not changing careers. It's just taking it to the next level, because you have your journey. People already come to you for these, for this, and you're more attracted to the emotional support behind food. And that's just what people will find you for. And as they will know, it's like, that's the thing, but then there's so much more behind the door.
Yeah. We open the door with food, and then we go in, and it's not even about the food.
Awesome. So so if anyone wants to contact you, whether they just feel really drawn and connected to reach out, they can go to your website, and there's a contact form there.
Yes.
Or your website, or your email address is on the site.
Everything's in there.
Well, thank you, Neviana.
Thanks, Heather.
Me and you will be BFFs
I love you.
forever. I love you too.
Thank you.
Big Life Journal. Have you heard of them? Are you secretly hoping your children do as you say and not as you do? Well, guess what? I've teamed up with Big Life Journal to help you give your children the tools and strategies that they need to live their big life. Their growth mindset journals empower children to face their challenges head on, think positive, and embrace mistakes. You can also check out their printables and activity cards. It doesn't matter if your child is a toddler or entering high school. Discovering how to live in a growth mindset is a lifelong skill we can all learn more about. To check them out, go to momisincontrol.com/big life and let them know I sent you.